With inauguration being a full 3 weeks behind us and the new administration is in full swing, it's time for us to tackle, are any of these executive orders actually going to make housing cheaper? And can the president of the United States of America make interest rates cheaper? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned in to Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Dio, what is popping today?
JC, we have a lot on the agenda today, and we are going to get political. You ready to do this?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Of course you are, John.
Think I give a shit?
Yes, you do. Yeah, that's the mask that you like to hide behind. It's easy to not care.
Of course it's easy. Path of least resistance, like
it is
water.
Easy to not care. We all know you care. We all know you love the people. You're a man of the people. Yeah, you're getting some hate right now all up on YouTube and on Instagram. You wear it like a champ, right? You
Internet
use your
nerds.
You
hide
use,
behind a computer.
Yeah, you use your Vince McMahon analogy.
Half of this shit is fucking bots anyway. You know who's commenting on LinkedIn posts?
Who?
Not top producers. So
you know
I'm not worried about
bot. I love the fact that you said bot, and I think like robot. I think actually like some kind of a chat bot that is automated to go on and make comments and posts.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Except for my daughter went to the dentist, and my daughter, I was like, oh, how'd your dentist appointment go? She was excited, no cavities, but she said her dental hygienist was a bot. I said, for real?
Like a robot. She act like
and
a
then,
robot.
yeah, that's what
Context
she meant.
Clues.
That's what she meant. It wasn't an actual bot. A bot's just a way to say somebody is mid or sus.
It must be
or just
it must
not
be
like
really
cool.
tough for you to like try to talk to and connect with like the younger generation.
I used to be cool, John. I used to be
tapped
cool.
out. I don't need to understand the vernacular or what the fuck they do on fucking Discord, shoving their face into piles of bread on stream, mukbang. I don't know what the hell is going on, but sure, man.
So anyhow, yeah, when you said bot, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think it was the same thing my daughter was talking about.
I had a robot, you know, Teddy Ruxpin, growing up. Did you have one of those?
I did not. I was a little bit too old for that. That's where our age gap really comes into play.
That was my first robot.
Yeah, but no, man, we have a lot on the agenda. And before I get started, I was going to say, y'all need to understand this about me. I love policy. I love the economy. I love commerce and business and capitalism. I try to live my life to be the best human I can be. I do not watch the news. I follow the headlines, and the headlines that I follow need to be the most moderate down the middle. I don't get involved in more than like the top fold of any article because I just want to know and have a general understanding of what's going on. Then there's certain things that I study. My industry is something I study: housing, the economy, the market. Okay, so all of that's kind of like me laying the foundation of also saying, y'all, I'm an independent. I am as purple come. I hate MSNBC as much as I hate Fox News. Okay, I despise the local news probably more than I despise the national. Get you all riled up on one side or the other. I generally think that humans are good people by nature.
No.
Yes, the greatest percentage. Pareto's principle tells me that. Okay. And I try to live my life, and I encourage my children and my colleagues to live a life where they just try to be great humans. Okay, so anything that I say, I am not pro one party, and I'm not like anti another
You're just
party.
spitting the facts,
I am
Dustin.
anti all parties. And I think government has its place, but I also think that I don't trust and never have trusted emphatically the government. No different than I wouldn't trust John Coleman to go and put together a vacation that's going to be up to my standards.
It'll be way out of your budget. What are you talking about?
Okay, right. So it'll be way out of my budget, but like there's just certain things that you know I trust that John could plan a vacation, and then if I went on that vacation, I'd have a good time and I'd be safe-ish.
You'd be
right?
broke-ish.
Okay, I'd be broke-ish too. Yeah. So anyhow, that is 100%. Like I'm going to dive into some topics that John and I steer clear from, and I want you to know that I am in this mode apolitical. I'm going to give a shout out to all of my new friends over at Total Mortgage.
Shout out Total Mortgage.
So yeah, so they flew me up to Connecticut. I got to have New Haven pizza.
Was it good?
It was good.
It wasn't the
best. It was good. I went to Pepe's. I tried to go to Sally's, but Sally's was closed. So I had the white clam pizza. Then the next day I had more of a traditional pie. I liked it. It was really good. I would go back to have some more. But Total Mortgage was doing their annual sales conference, right? And Total Mortgage is a top 50 lender. They're the number one lender in Connecticut. Just great leadership. So shout out to John Scott and Chris, right? John Scott, Chris, and actually George kind of head up sales for them, along with their branch managers and some of their regional directors. Darren's another guy that I thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with. So shout out to Darren. And then to their support team, Alex, Olivia, Mary, like, thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for welcoming me. And to the entire Total Mortgage team, I so appreciate the warm welcome. And John, I freaking crushed it. Like, I had one of those performances. I was like, damn, that was good. Mic drop moment. And I got to hang out with the folks afterwards at their after party, their dinner, their award ceremony. And yeah, I got some really positive feedback. So I just want to say thank you. And today's show is sponsored by our friends over at Empower LO. That's Empower, EMPOWERLO.com. Absolutely love what Mike McAllister is doing over at Empower LO. Love what he does for originators, which is he helps them market better so they can generate high quality leads online to where they can convert them into home buyers to refer to realtors. They can convert them into borrowers so that they can close loans and make money. The company is Empower LO. I love his relationship that he has with Go High Level from a CRM standpoint. So originators, if you're looking to think outside of the box and you're wanting to add on to some of the traditional marketing that you're already doing, the shit that we coach, I would tell you to check out what they're doing over at Empower LO and tell our good friend Mike McAllister that we said what's up.
Fabulous job, Dustin.
All right. So we're going to get into it.
You're going to get into it. This is going to be an episode where you talk at me a lot.
Okay, well, I want you to participate a little bit. Like, you can ask questions, John.
I already know the answers. Nothing's going to, it takes like, come on, go ahead. Actually, no, you start. I'll be positive-er.
Yeah, positive-er. I like that. You'll be positive-er. So, all right, so check this out. So, new presidency comes in. President Trump has been reelected, been inaugurated, and comes out of the gate swinging, like most new presidents do. And he's swinging with his agenda. The first 100 days is always very important for a new president, or a new presidency, a new administration, we'll call it. And the executive orders are just coming out, right? Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Executive order for you. Executive order for you. Here's another one. Like, he's just dropping them. And this is where he's a mad genius. Okay, he's a mad genius because he is the king of empty threats and broken promises. However, none of us ever know which of those threats are the empty ones and which of those promises are the broken ones. Because there's going to be some threats that are actually followed through on and some promises that are actually also followed through on. So, and he's the ultimate showman, right? The ultimate politicker, the ultimate fundraiser, the ultimate rally guy. And he placates to the people. Even if he knows, or his advisors tell him that, it's probably not going to work. Hey, he knows he's going to tell the people what they want to hear. Cool. That's who put him in office. He has to keep them happy. Let's keep giving them lip service. So as a practitioner of the mortgage industry, as someone who studies the U.S. economy, for somebody who understands housing at a more than basic level, I have to sit back and laugh. I have to sit back and smirk, and I have to question a lot of the hyperbole coming out of the new administration, aka from President Trump's mouth to our ears, to our Twitter feed, to whatever, if you dare tune on those 24-hour, for your entertainment, get you riled up fake news stations. How I think a lot of what he's talking about with housing, it's not his to dictate. It's not his to dictate. In fact, it made me think about that flight home from Connecticut, which, by the way, when you live in Orlando, you know this. It sucks anytime you're flying in or out because you're chock full of kids on your plane because they're either going home after a week at Disney or they're excited to come down.
No, you love everybody. Kids are awesome. Little brats kicking your seat, bitching on the plane. That's awesome. We love all people. Keep going.
We love all people, but I don't love all people at all times. So I can love you, but I can be mad at you for 2 hours. I can
2
be
hours?
annoyed for you
2
for 3
hours.
days.
That's all 3 days. What'd I do for you for 3 days?
Nothing. I'm just saying.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically
okay.
speaking.
Right.
Hypothetically speaking. So anyhow, what do toddlers do? They throw temper tantrums.
No, they bitch because their parents don't know how to discipline them. False.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that they throw temper tantrums because they want to be noticed. They want to be heard because something hurts.
No. Your parents never hit you in public? Did you act up in public ever? Like when you were with your mom?
Not with my dad around. With my mom and my granny around?
Why is that, Dustin?
We're not getting into this one. I will do a whole entire episode on structure, discipline, and love. And how
I know you were saying that.
And how you need that to raise children, animals, and in order to raise your business.
Discipline, structure, and love in that order, please.
Okay, however you want to do it. But no, this is about the proclamations and the demands and the executive orders.
Yeah.
Okay, that impact housing and interest rates.
I know.
Okay, that's what this is. But what I'm saying is that a lot of the verbiage reminded me of a 2-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, or it's like taking a cell phone away from your teenage daughter and watching her lose her shit and make all these threats that she's going to not do this anymore and she's going to move out.
I'm going to run away.
Yes,
Oh
okay,
my.
cool.
Bye.
All right, cool.
Bye.
So somebody's feelings are hurt. All right.
Right.
But let's really talk this through.
Okay.
So I'm here to inform the audience that the president of the United States, regardless if their name is George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, let's just go with John Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, or Donald Trump. Okay. They can't dictate mortgage rates. Like, they can't. That's not how this game works. In fact, they can't currently, and hopefully never, dictate what the Federal Reserve does. Now, you can put certain people into the Federal Reserve, whether it's the chairman or whether it's one of the governors, right? And that happens periodically. But the Federal Reserve is designed to operate independently from Congress, independently from the president. Okay, so I don't know how the president of the United States, regardless of who it is, can ever just say, I demand mortgage rates go down, and voila, they go down.
What do you mean, Dustin? That's exactly what an executive order is. That's what I call it, an executive order.
Yep, and that reminds me of a 2-year-old on an airplane throwing a temper tantrum, or a 14-year-old who just got in trouble with mom and dad and then their cell phone was taken from them.
So let's just play this. Let's just say this. Let's say he does create and draft an executive order to where I hereby sign into law that all mortgage rates are going to be 3% for the next 5 years. And what if he signs it? Where does that piece of paper go then?
That defies the capitalistic society that we were built on. That defies the free market. I mean, at the end of the day, a mortgage rate is a bond. We know this. We talk about it all the time, right? And bonds are traded based on supply and demand. Bonds have values and bonds have yields. Okay, so based on what's going on in the world economy as well as the U.S. economy will dictate investors' appetites for a certain bond. Okay, that dictation of appetite will dictate whether or not rates go to 8% or down to 5%. And quite honestly, like, some of the policies that have been floated have been theorized by some really smart economists throughout the country and the world that those policies could be bad for the bond market, at which point we would see bond prices drop, which send yields up. When yields go up, that's the interest rate. So for a president to say they demand mortgage rates to go down, okay, but you don't have that power to do so. And if you try to create that power, it goes against everything that really and truly the Republican Party stands for. And quite honestly, in my opinion, what most of the Democrats believe in behind closed doors, right? Behind closed doors, they believe a certain way. Now, when they're out campaigning, okay, they have to say certain things, right? This is like where I look at U.S. political system And I'm like, we don't have two parties. We have one party.
The WWF, Dustin.
Yes, the WWF, exactly. In the locker room, everybody's friends.
Yeah.
Right? They go out in the ring and they act like they hate each other and they act like they're fighting. Right. But behind closed doors, they're all in the party for power, the party for money, and the party for making sure they stay in power, and the party that makes sure that they continue to make sure that they and their friends keep all the money. Right? Like that's the party that they're a part of. But yeah, so I don't see any interest rate relief happening because the president demanded it. And I don't even know like what policies the president could put into play that would actually make interest rates go down. Now, if you asked him, and it's been reported that it's like, oh, well, I'm going to start making the U.S. pump all this oil, and at which point it'll bring oil down, which will then curb inflation. And when we curb inflation, that's going to drive mortgage rates down. I'm like, okay, so the president of the United States is going to go to these private oil companies and demand that they pump more? Now, he can make it easier for the oil companies to have access to more land. He can make it easier for them to tap more wells. But all you have to do is go to Paramount Plus and watch Landman with Billy Bob Thornton to learn the oil companies have their sweet spot. I don't think they want oil at $60 a barrel, just like they don't want oil at $100 a barrel. They probably want oil somewhere between $65 and $85 a barrel because that's where they know they're the most efficient, the most profitable. And these oil companies, guess what they're in for? Money and power for themselves. So, in theory, sure, you can make drilling easier. You can open up more federal lands for drilling. But the United States of America is already, if not the number one top in the world at oil production. Like natural gas production, fossil fuel production, we are number one or at least in the top three. So it's not like we're not already doing this at a very high level. So, word to the wise, I do not see any way possible for a president of the United States, regardless if it's Trump, the next guy, the next lady, or somebody 20 years ago, to wave a magic wand and be like, because I said so, rates are going down. So, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Do not anticipate help is not on the way when it comes from an executive order in mortgage interest rates.
Well, could he do some things that could potentially make home ownership less attainable?
Less attainable?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been theorized that too many of the wrong tariffs can be bad for inflation, at which point we know that inflation is the arch enemy of interest rates. The higher inflation goes, the higher mortgage rates go. So, yeah, I mean, that strategy, although could check some other boxes that maybe are good for our country, they would not be good for mortgage rates. Like when we look at how did mortgage rates get down to 2.5%? Yes, the government manipulated that back in 2020, 2021. 100%. How did rates drop back in 2009, 10, 11? Because the government manipulated. Yep, the government manipulated through quantitative easing. Now, when I say the government, it wasn't the president and it wasn't Congress. It was the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve may have been acting on a recommendation of potentially, the Secretary of the Treasury or, the House Ways and Means Committee, whatever the case may be. But the way that they did it is the Federal Reserve, started purchasing mortgage-backed securities. They started purchasing treasuries. So they would, in that case, manipulate it. But the Federal Reserve, since it's been stood up, always has been operating independently. Like meaning Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan did not have the opportunity to go to the federal chairman, whether it was Greenspan, Bernanke, Powell, etc., and dictate, John, you must lower interest rates by 50 basis points today or else. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. There's a reason why we have separation of church and state. And better yet, we know already that the Federal Reserve rate has nothing to do with mortgage rates. We have seen the Federal Reserve lower interest rates in 2024. That's the Fed funds rate. And mortgage rates went the opposite direction.
I think it's going to be a long time before the masses truly understand that inverse relationship between those rates, Dustin.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be inverse. Typically, when the cost of borrowing is going down, the cost of borrowing is going down, right? When treasuries are yields are being lowered, mortgage-backed security yields are being lowered. When the Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates, typically everything else should be following suit because the Federal Reserve does create monetary policy. Like, that is what they do. So, anyhow, just know when it comes to interest rates and the President of the United States, no executive order is going to make rates come down. I don't care how much you demand it, how much you stomp your feet and slam your fist and scream really loud or tweet at midnight on a Sunday. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And by the way, I promise you, especially those at the 50% that did vote for him, you don't want it to work that way, right? The minute the president can wave his or her wand to make something like rates come down, there's no longer a free market, right? There's no longer, which is not a capitalistic society, right? Like, now we're basically China or Russia. So we don't want that. All right, the second thing, right? And I love this. This is great lip service. Like, all of the voters, right? All of the people who go to the rallies, they want to hear this. I demand that the cost of housing goes down. I demand it.
Yep.
Yes.
So go do it.
If you take my cell phone away from me, I'm going to move out of here. I'm never talking to you again.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, but let's talk about what that really means. How? How are you going to demand it? You're the president of the United States. You are the commander in chief. Okay. You still can't, like, you can do executive orders, but you can't, like, enact laws, because that comes from Congress, and you get to sign those laws into practice, or into law, or you get to sign those bills into law, or you get to veto them. Okay, you do get that right, but but it can also, by the way, these executive orders or any law can also be challenged. That's why we have the Supreme Court. Like, there's a reason why we have this, this setup, right? Executive, judicial, Congress, all that. But when it's proclaimed that I demand that like, who doesn't want housing to get cheaper? Like, we all do. Even home builders would love to sell homes at $300,000 and not $600,000, as long as they could make $100,000. Like, that's what they care about. Home builders, can I continue to operate? Can I continue to grow? Can I continue to provide for my employees? And can I make a profit? I don't think they really care if that's selling homes for $300,000 or $3 million. What they care about is can I check all four of those boxes? So when you start looking at, well, how are you going to make housing less affordable? We've talked about this on multiple episodes. The federal government doesn't dictate how cheaply or inexpensively housing can be created. No, housing starts with land acquisition, and then you have to cut through a bunch of bureaucratic red tape from a permitting standpoint. You have to find labor, people to actually, build the houses, and supplies. Okay, so where can the federal government, the president of the free world, can that man or woman step in and dictate any one of those four?
Well, where do all those acts come in? Like, we had the Hometown Heroes Act here in Florida like a while ago, or some other kind of plan to stimulus some kind of first-time home buyer programs. Like, how are those initiated, and where do those come from?
Well, I think it's going to vary from state to state. So in the state of Florida, we charge an intangible tax every time someone gets a home mortgage, right? So you take out a $300,000 loan, you're paying a $600 tax on that mortgage. That tax then goes to the state. The state can then use those funds to reinvest back into certain communities. Sometimes the federal government does budget funds down to the states, and the states get to choose how they use the money. Some states may choose it for down payment assistance. Some states may choose it to build hospitals, right? So, or Section 8 housing for veterans. But when it comes to building cheaper homes and making homeownership more affordable, I want us to discuss, okay, the land itself. President has said that he's going to open up federal lands to build homes on. Fantastic. Love that idea. Absolutely love that idea. My question would be, where are those federal lands? Do people actually want to live there? Is there already a Target or a Walmart or a Publix? Is there infrastructure? How about schools? Because if you're going to ask people to drive 2 hours to their kid's school, or there's no Walmart or no gas station, it's a fantastic idea, I guess, to open up federal lands. But if it's in BFE, John, pretty confident ain't nobody want to live there. And it just sounds like a lot of lip service. Then I look at the president is going to do what? Is the president going to come into Winter Park, Florida, and demand that the councilmen and women of Winter Park or the mayor all of a sudden make and change their zoning requirements? Because my understanding is that we have this thing like states' rights, and we want less government and not more government. So when do you choose to empower your local municipalities, your counties, and your states versus dictating how they should legislate and operate?
Well, it sounds like, well, if I can pick up what you're putting down, it sounds like the man or woman at the top can make like a broad statement, this is what's going to happen, but it still has to be like adopted by like the 50, how many states we have? 52 states? 50 states. It still
if you add Canada, you're 51. You add Greenland, you're 52. Throw in Puerto Rico at 53. Just because we like round numbers, let's find we either need to turn Guam, the Virgin Islands, or and maybe American Samoa into 54.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then it's still like.
But we have 50 states currently.
Yeah. So then what I'm hearing is even if there was like a broad statement, each state would have to be voted on, and then it wouldn't be like a blanket across for all 50 states.
Yeah. I mean, look, when the president's doing what he's doing, like, he is a showman and possibly the greatest showman. And I'm sure what he's trying to do is rile up the base. Understand, if the base gets riled up and they realize that really help isn't on the way from the federal level, maybe then it'll start bleeding into those city council meetings. It'll start bleeding into those county commission meetings. It'll start bleeding through to the governors of the states. And those governors and those council people and those commissioners will start actually looking at their policies and thinking, oh, how many of these are outdated? How many of these need to be revised? And how can we maybe potentially loosen it up? But it is not as easy as someone making an executive order that they're going to do this, and you don't want it. I promise you. Those of us that love our great nation, we do not want to ever have someone who is a president who is coming in and telling Aurora, California, or Aurora, Colorado, it would be, or Waco, Texas, or Winter Park, Florida, or you name that city, Swanee, Georgia, you got to do this because I'm the president and I said so. Okay, no. So then you start thinking about, okay, so that's on, we talked about the public land. Oh, free up public land. Okay, sounds great in theory, but I double dog dare people to figure out where those areas are and ask yourself, would you live there? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Then we start talking about, well, what gets in the way of housing being cheaper? 25% of it's in the red tape. It is in all the environmental studies. And I'm not saying strip them away. We do need to have checks and balances. I am saying they could be loosened up. I do believe that. They need to be revisited, and we need to find a way to make it cheaper, right? Maybe we cut the cost in half, or we cut the cost by a third, but we can't just abolish the cost altogether. Well, that's only 1/4 of the cost. We still have materials. You still need lumber. You still need steel. You still need concrete. You still need drywall. You still need light bulbs, like roof shingles and trusses and everything that goes into building a home. Well, if some of our negotiation tactics with our trade partners swing in a manner that we want to penalize them and make it much more expensive for those countries to import their goods, i.e. tariffs, then the cost of goods to construct a home just went up. Well, now you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Do you want cheap housing or do you want tariffs?
Yes.
I don't think you can have both.
Damn it.
Don't think you can have both. So then let's talk about labor. Do you know who does cheap labor?
Yes.
Yeah. Migrants.
Yep.
And a lot of people who are not in this country legally.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not here to discuss immigration. I know immigration is required for society, and I am a rule follower, so I think there are rules that should be followed and rules that should be enforced as it pertains to immigration. But I will tell you, take away the human aspect, take away the right and wrong aspect, take away the America First aspect, like none of that. This is not a discussion or a debate on immigration. What I do know is that if you got rid of 200,000 workers, and let's say that, quite honestly, Pareto's principle told me that of the 200,000, that, you know what, I don't know, 40,000 of them were bad people. I don't believe that, but let's just say that for argument's sake. That still was 160,000 people that were doing the jobs that most other natural born citizens were not willing to do, or if they were willing to do it, they were doing it at double the cost. Hey, that doesn't help make housing any more affordable, makes it more expensive. So yeah, I just don't see in real life how this will make housing any cheaper, and how really I think the president, regardless of man or woman, Trump, Harris, Gonzalez, Coleman, or Owen, whichever president, future or past, you want to put in, I don't see where they're going to be able to wave a magic wand and say, just because I proclaimed it, housing's going to be more affordable. So this whole episode is all about bursting people's bubble. I don't see relief coming down the pike. And if it is, it'll be a slow process.
Slow trickle.
That starts with the municipalities. It starts with winning whatever the trade war is, that at the end of the day, we're getting these goods for cheaper, or we're producing them on our own land for cheaper than we could have imported them from Canada or Mexico. It comes from finding a way to get cheap labor. Again, I don't know how you get cheap labor, but we need more cheap labor. We need more cheap supplies. We can work with our counties and our states and our municipalities. The federal government can stimulate or incentivize through tax breaks the counties and the cities and the states to potentially reduce the amount of red tape necessary. I'm sure in a couple pockets, we call them outliers, building on certain federal land that was before protected, sure, can maybe add, I don't know, 100,000 or 200,000 units. But we're talking like we're millions of units short right now, meaning we don't have enough housing for the number of households that are being formed. So yeah, in a very short answer, can President Trump make housing great again? No. The answer is no. What would make housing be great again? Inflation, which has already come down. Like we're already in the twos. Inflation, for the most part, was only around because of COVID, because we printed a bunch of money to stimulate the economy. Okay, that lasted a lot longer. We possibly printed way too much money. We should have stopped it after round one. We shouldn't have gone to round two, potentially. Only time will tell. But inflation's below 3%. So at this point, you're kind of, if you want things to get better, you kind of want a recession. You kind of want the stock market to have a correction. You kind of want some more money to go into the bond market to bring interest rates down, because once interest rates get down in the fives, sellers will sell, and we got plenty of buyers who want to buy. We don't need to incentivize buyers. Like the administration who lost, right, the Harris campaign was talking about all these incentives to help buyers. We don't need incentives to help buyers. Not that I don't want to help buyers. I get paid to help buyers. But it's just not necessary because we don't have a demand issue. Like the demand is there. Right now, the issue is interest rates are at 7. They're not at 5 3/4. The issue is there's not enough homes on the market. And those homes that are on the market are at a price, when you look at today's interest rates, where they're not affordable. But there's not a clear path to creating more inventory. And if you do, it's not going to be any more affordable than the houses that are on the market. So the solution is, how do we drive interest rates down? We can only do so typically through an economy that is not growing, but economy that is receding, at which point the market will dictate that interest rates should be substantially lower than it is today. So that's where we stand, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope I did this topic justice, because I try to stay as purple and as neutral as possible.
Grimace. The purple thing from McDonald's?
Oh, yes. Call me Grimace.
Jesus Christ.
Call me
You're
Grimace.
Such a boomer.
Yeah, I'm going like purple people eater. Anyhow. So let's do this. If you all are looking for a really cool event and you want to come, whether it's connect with me in person, meet me for the first time in person, or learn and network with a bunch of other originators just like you who are trying to make 2025 their best year yet. We as TLOP are hosting a free event in Greenville, South Carolina on Wednesday, February 19th. It's at the Lazy Goat. It's free thanks to our sponsors, Arch MI and Parker Smith with State Farm. Go to our website, tloponline.com. And on our website is where you can register for this event. Because we are only allowed to have 100 registration, it will sell out. It's a half-day event. Starts at 1. It ends at 5:30. I'm going to be giving a keynote. I'm then going to be moderating a top producer panel. I'm then going to be giving another keynote. We then will do Q&A. Then we'll break for about an hour and a half of happy hour. Beer, wine, snacks. Again, free to the originators that are in and around Greenville, South Carolina. So I'm thinking that's Charlotte, that's Greenville, that's probably Wilmington, that's definitely Atlanta. Like if you're within a couple hour drive, come hang out with us, network with others who do what you do for a living, get your learn on, leave inspired to make changes. And if you make those changes and those changes become habits, you will look back after 6 or 12 months and you will be in a much better position in your business than you were, all because you decided to dedicate a few hours on February 19th to be a part of this event. So check it out. Come hang out with us. Can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to see you. But if you can't make the event, John, look, here at TLOP, we have tons of resources, tons of coaching opportunities, speaking engagement opportunities. We call it the good, better, best, elite. If you want good, good is free. Good is essentially tuning into the show, subscribing to our podcast, signing up for our newsletter, tloponline.com. Go to the website, sign up for the newsletter. And if you sign up for the newsletter, we will invite you to one free monthly signature masterclass that I teach. And we will allow you to enter into the TLOP community. Okay, that's good. Better, become a member of the TLOP community. It is hands down the number one value in the mortgage industry. For $3,000 a year, we give you the content, the information, and the knowledge that others charge $3,000 a month for. Okay, information to become a part of the TLOP online community, or what I call TLOP's originator coaching community. It's tloponline.com. Now, if you want best, that's when you want to go through one of our boot camps. We offer 16-week intensive small group with one-on-one attention boot camps. Our current boot camp is called Launch. We sold out in record time the first class.
Word.
We opened up a second class. But here's the deal. We're going to MortgageCon next week. Pretty confident after MortgageCon, we will have the second class booked, at which point you'll have to join the waiting list for the fall semester. But the best is when you go through one of the boot camps, because we give you the boot camp plus access to TLOP's originator coaching community.
Okay.
And then finally, in 2025, we're rolling out Elite.
Okay.
Elite is how you can get one-on-one coaching along with TLOP's originator coaching community. That one-on-one coaching is with me, typically 2 calls per month, plus full access to TLOP's originator coaching community. All of that information can be found on our website, tloponline.com. Thank you again to our show sponsor, Empower LO, and our guy, Mike McAllister. Shout out again to everyone over at Total Mortgage. If you want to book me or book John and I, whether it's for a workshop or to speak at your event, you can inquire online. Check out our media inquiry link on tloponline.com. He's John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen. That's all the time we have for you today. We do look forward to catching you, though, on the next episode. Peace.